The next great resource for local weather is now available.
DigitalWeatherDesk.com is your source for up-to-the-minute local weather. Add DigitalWeatherDesk.com to your favorites, download our app, and follow me on social media. The Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank.
Hey everybody, good morning, and thanks so much for joining us on this Wednesday, middle of the week, and the fog is our big weather headline to start the day. I know that as you take a look at the I-20 traffic cams, you probably are thinking, what fog? But the West Monroe area is one of the very few areas where visibility is actually fairly satisfactory for a good chunk of the rest of the region. Now, again, in full disclosure, the fog is very patchy, but where we are seeing it, it is quite dense to start the day. This morning's forecast made possible by ServPro Monroe, West Monroe, water, mold, fire damage. Call or click servpro.com today for more information. Again, aside from the fog, it should be a fairly quiet Wednesday, and then we turn our attention toward the storm system that will impact our area Thursday into Friday. By the way, if I seem a little louder than usual, I did tweak some audio settings. So our countdown video is a little bit louder than usual, and my microphone should be a little bit louder than usual. I'm trying to bring a balance in. Obviously, you can't always balance the audio perfectly because sometimes I'm screaming at you, sometimes I'm barely talking, and sometimes I struggle to control the volume of my own voice. So there you go. But obviously, it may mean some adjustments if you listen usually at a certain volume or something like that. Like I said, I may be a little louder than normal. But I'll go back and check after the fact, and we'll see. Kay, good morning. Thank you so much for joining in. Again, here's a look at the visibility map. And again, there's a lot of spots. Let me check the surface map real quick. I've been checking the same surface map website for the last 25 years. Yeah, I mean, fog's everywhere. And that checks out on the visibility map. The dense fog advisory was issued for a good chunk of the Mississippi Valley to start the overnight hours, and then it was supposed to be set from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. Fog showed up early, so the National Weather Service went ahead and kicked it into effect late last night. Then dense fog advisories expanded across the region as visibility continued to drop. So again, that's our biggest headache across the region this morning. As I alluded to yesterday, a wide array of temperatures across the area. Quite chilly behind that cold front that has passed through and allowed for some cooler air to kind of sneak into the region, mainly in the northwestern counties and parishes. 43 in Homer, 41 in Magnolia, Camden, 40 in El Dorado, 47 in Monticello, 49 in Greenville. But then you move into the vast majority of the rest of the ArkLaMiss, and it's 50s and 60s. 59 in Monroe, 64 in Natchez, 63 in Vicksburg. Dew points are relatively close to our air temperatures. That's why the fog is such an issue tonight. This morning we were expecting to maybe wedge some slightly drier air in to where the fog wouldn't be a problem across southern Arkansas. That has not been the case. Everybody's dealing with fog to a certain degree, with dew points, again, pretty close to where our actual air temperatures are, meaning that the air is pretty saturated and likely to stay that way as we set the stage for the storm system that we'll deal with late this week. Winds are generally in the 2 to 5 mile an hour range. They're a little bit higher in Monroe, but there's also a lot of areas that are seeing calm winds. That's also leading and aiding some of the fog production. Infrared satellite shows a few high clouds across the region, and aside from that, there's also some thicker mid-level clouds that are out there as well. This also depends on location. The clouds are a little bit thicker and more persistent to the north and west, and then to the south and east there is at least. But a lot of us don't know about that because of the fog. You're not going to see a whole lot of what's happening cloud-wise in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere when you can't see more than a half mile in front of your face. But as we go through the afternoon, I would expect a mix of sun and clouds. The fog will thin out by late morning. The cold front that has moved through the area will move back to the north as a warm front. We'll talk about all that in just a minute. Radar made possible by Brown's Roofing. Schedule your free roof inspection at brownsroofingla.com. Do that while the weather's good. Don't wait until the weather gets crummy. Call Brown's Roofing today, or like I said, go online and you can schedule that free roof inspection. Nothing doing radar-wise across the region. Futurecast kind of shows how the boundary shaped up through the overnight and how the fog is sitting right now. So currently, if you wanted to draw it out, there's a weak cold front that has weaseled its way through the area. Cold front. Okay? As we go through the day and the winds continue to crank up out of the south, that same front will retreat northward as a warm front. So this is going to go north as we go through the day. In fact, as I put this into motion, note the winds out of the south that will push all of that warm, humid air back into place as we go through the daytime hours. See? Whoop. Clouds are back in late tonight. Maybe some patchy fog. I think the winds are going to be strong enough overnight to keep that from being a big issue, but the clouds will return. Janet, May, Sheila, good morning. Thanks so much for hopping in. There's a warm front. I just drew it a little early. Regardless, winds are back out of the south and should be quite breezy through the day on Thursday. Again, I'm not overly sold on storm production in our area as we go through the day on Thursday. We've talked about the lead disturbance, the lead mid-level disturbance that will kick out through the day on Thursday. It could generate some thunderstorms. I think the better ingredients are well to our north and northwest. There's an outside chance that we could see a stray storm in our area. But again, the main focus looks to be through the mid-Mississippi Valley. Then we set the stage for Friday. And as we've mentioned through the day on Friday, hello, Lana. Thank you so much for joining in. Randy on X, good morning. Susie, good morning to you as well. But as we set the stage for Friday, winds are back persistently breezy out of the south, and those low-level winds will strengthen as we go through the day. We'll also be aided by the main parent trough of low pressure as it swings through. That will help to amplify low-level winds, really kick up the mid-level winds too. All of that also working with a deepening area of low pressure at the surface, and you can see that moving from the plain states through portions of the mid-Mississippi Valley and the cold front that stretches out to the southwest along the boundary, ahead of that area of low pressure, or along that area of low pressure. So, as we go into the late morning, early afternoon hours, you can see kind of the messy depiction of thunderstorms across much of the region. There could be a window of opportunity for multiple rounds of thunderstorms. In fact, a lot of the model data has been insistent on generating some mid to late morning thunderstorms. That could carry a severe weather threat. And then as we get daytime heating really involved, we get some stronger low-level winds in. We get the main upper-level storm system to start interacting. So we start overlaying the severe weather ingredients, right? We talk about that all the time. We need the shear, we need the lift, we need instability, we need moisture. And sometimes you work with all of those ingredients. Sometimes you work with limited amounts of all of those ingredients. Sometimes you have a lot of some and none of the others. And so it's again, a lot of meteorologists use that we're baking a cake or we're baking cookies. Well, you know, you can work with some ingredients, you can substitute ingredients, you can do all that kind of stuff, but the more ingredients you have, obviously, the more favorable the outcome in terms of severe thunderstorms and the overall forecast. That's the other thing is you really want the forecast to verify. You don't want severe weather, but I want whatever I'm telling you to be accurate, you know? And so as we go through the daytime hours on Friday, multiple rounds of thunderstorms will be possible. A lot of the activity seems to be out ahead of the main front, kind of a prefrontal trough of low pressure and also the low-level strengthening low-level winds. That looks to be where a lot of the activity tries to set up through the course of the day. So there will be this large corridor of thunderstorm potential, and then that becomes a little bit better focused as the front advances through the region, and most of this starts to move toward the Mississippi Valley by mid to late afternoon. That's the other thing to note is a lot of the computer model data has continued to trend slower and slower and slower, and that's not necessarily a good thing either. Slower storm system tends to be a little bit deeper, digs a little bit farther southward. It has more time through the day on Friday to accumulate warm, humid, unstable air before we advance the main storm system through. Earlier this week, it looked like it was going to be more of a mid to late morning type system. The atmosphere wasn't going to really have much of an opportunity to destabilize. We were going to deal with some thunderstorms, and then everything would be on its merry way. Now it looks like we're kind of working later into the day on Friday, and that could also mean some Friday night thunderstorms, which is a bummer for a lot of folks too. In terms of storm ingredients, and we were talking about this earlier, and what's indicated here are those purple wind arrows that you see are low-level winds, not surface winds, but low-level winds, a few thousand feet up, over 25 miles an hour. So basically the stronger low-level winds, if you will. Those start to pick up as we head through the overnight hours tonight and into the early part of the day on Thursday. The colors that you see there are what we were showing you yesterday, CAPE, convective available potential energy. Basically just storm energy, the ability for air to rise rapidly and for storms to build quickly. There's not much storm energy tomorrow morning, but as we continue with the warm, humid environment through the course of the day, we at least start to accumulate some CAPE, some storm energy to help feed the potential for showers and thunderstorms. Not necessarily severe weather, just thunderstorms in general. Again, overall, looks fairly spotty for most of our area. Those low-level winds stay pretty strong through the afternoon and evening hours. I went backwards. Hang on. I could fix this. We can go right back to where we were. Hit the wrong button. There's 2 buttons. I had a 50% chance of getting it right. Still messed it up. So again, as we go by Thursday evening, winds are back out of the southwest. There's still not a lot of storm energy to work with, but as we go into the overnight hours and into the early part of the day on Friday, despite going through the overnight time frame when the atmosphere cools and stabilizes, we are still gathering a lot of deep layered, warm, humid air and stacking it up across the area as we go through the Friday morning. Also along that note, we have 2 corridors of strong low-level winds. One moving through the I-30 corridor associated with the main trough of low pressure, and then also kind of this secondary punch of stronger low-level winds across the mid-Mississippi Valley and the lower Mississippi Valley, probably kind of aided by a strengthening area of low pressure. So we have a lot of this energy to work with through the early to mid-afternoon hours. We have more than we initially thought we would have to work with through the day on Friday. And then obviously as the main storm system sweeps through, winds will be out of the west and northwest, and the storm threat ends through the day on Saturday. Not much has changed in terms of the storm threat, the severe weather threat, the convective outlook, whatever you want to call it, through the day tomorrow. It's a marginal risk for a good chunk of the region. Basically saying, if we can get a thunderstorm to develop, it could become severe. I'm not overly confident in us seeing storms across the region tomorrow. All modes of severe weather will be possible, assuming, again, that we can get a storm in our area. Susie, Gloria, Kathleen, Becky, Peavy, thank you so much all for joining in. I have a more than normal number on our stream this morning as folks gear up for late week storm potential. The severe weather threat, hello, Jeremy. Storm threat obviously expands out, slight risk level 2 of 5 categories across the vast majority of the region for Friday. I know a lot of folks will wonder, are we looking at an upgrade to an enhanced risk? It's too early to really, if it happens, it happens. I think a slight risk is pretty well encompassing of the storm threat through the day on Friday. All modes of severe weather seem possible. Damaging winds, hail, heavy rain, all seem to be a possibility, at least in some isolated form with the strongest storms as they develop and move through the area on Friday. Speaking of severe weather, we'll talk about that in the 7-day in just a minute. Futurecast also shows, and by the way, Futurecast made possible by Bayou Power Sports I-20 Frontage Road in Monroe, shows a wide array of rain totals. Obviously, again, where you see thunderstorms, you're going to see the highest and heaviest rainfall. Some areas will see showers and maybe a rogue thunderstorm, and those totals will be much more limited. So obviously, it's going to be a wide array of rain totals depending on where you are, your particular location. If you get multiple thunderstorms in your region, a quick 1.5 to 2 inches of rain is not out of the realm of possibility, but that will be the exception, not the rule. Most of us will probably be in the 1/2 inch to full inch of rain range, and here's the official forecast from the Weather Prediction Center. Over the next 3 days, anywhere from a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch totals to the west, to the higher totals of 1 inch to 1.5 inches to the east. Obviously, painting with a broad brush, thunderstorm-driven rains could lead to extreme higher totals than this. Some spots may not see much rain at all. Trish, Justin, good morning. Friday's your son's birthday. That's a bummer. Well, I mean, it's happy birthday to him. Hopefully the storms aren't a problem. But a bummer that you have to worry about that kind of stuff on his birthday. Flash flood risk, the excessive rain outlook, whatever you want to call it. All your severe weather alerts and outlooks are made possible by Allegiance Health Network. Again, pretty dry across the area. We can take quite a bit of rain without it being a big headache or an issue, but along the Mississippi Valley, where there's a higher likelihood of multiple thunderstorms training over the area or multiple rounds of thunderstorms through the course of the day, the rain could get excessive in some of those spots. Tommy, good morning to you as well. Daytime highs today range anywhere from the low to mid-70s. Some spots in southern Arkansas may struggle to get out of the 60s, at least for a brief period of time through the day. We're aiming for highs generally in the mid-70s. The fog will clear out through the morning hours, but the clouds, however, will not, at least not completely. I will expect to see some peaks of sunshine, but the clouds will roll back in with the winds back out of the south and southwest through the course of the day. Lows tonight will fall back into the upper 50s to near 60 degrees. Clouds continue. Winds will stay out of the south. In fact, I don't really expect temperatures to fall off much. We'll probably be at 58, 59 degrees around midnight, and then to see a gradual warming trend through daybreak. You may wake up in the 60s, so don't be surprised if that 59 degrees is something that you see during the early morning hours of Thursday. Your 7-day forecast made possible by 3B Hardware. Daytime highs in the mid-70s, morning lows 50s and 60s through Friday. Obviously, the storm threat on Friday is the highlight of the forecast, the main focus on the forecast. And again, if you haven't joined us for the last few days, we do have the ability to change days on the 7-day to red to kind of get your attention a little bit more, if you will. If the forecast continues in this trend, we probably will turn Friday red again to just get your attention. I don't have any fancy catchphrase telling you this is an action alert day and that's why it's turned red. We don't do that. It's just when you look at the 7-day, you see a red day, you'd go, oh, hey, that day will be more impactful than others and I need to pay attention. That's how I'm branding it, is if you see a red day on the 7-day forecast, you probably should pay attention to the weather intently that day. So Friday will probably be lit up in red at some point. But that's how the 7-day forecast shakes out. Should be noticeably cooler. We trend cooler behind the initial front Friday, Saturday, but then there's a reinforcing shot of cooler air that knocks us into the low 50s Sunday, Monday. Could be near the freezing mark. A lot of us will be below freezing to start the week next week. Monday, a lot of us could be in the upper 20s, especially across southern Arkansas, so be aware of that. And the severe weather threat is obviously the main weather headline as we go through the rest of the week. Plan for the rest of the day. Too Long Didn't Read comes out at 9:30. I will join you with a midday stream. Can I make the app do the red days? No, I can't. Because the app runs on they all run on the same information. They're all based off the same weather forecast information. They run on the same data interface, if you will. But the module's different, and so it really the turning the days red here is just a little bit of a coding thing, and it's just like a tweak. I could change them orange, yellow, green. We could do whatever we want. We just choose red. With the app, can't do that. I'll put that in as a request down the line, though. That would be kind of cool. Speaking of the app, before we split, we've got some folks on here, and I want to make this announcement. It's not a major announcement, but it's a cool thing that's headed our way. I hope to have more information about it later today, if not tomorrow, as we gear into Friday. We always talk. The weather standard has always have 3 ways of receiving severe weather alerts, right? I've said that for the better part of 20 years. Hello, Evelyn, Tanya. Good evening. And good evening, Diane and Tommy and Justin and Kathy. So, again, the industry standard, we always tell you, have 3 ways, have multiple ways of receiving severe weather alerts. The Digital Weather Desk app is 1. If you have a NOAA weather radio, that is 2. And then that leaves you with what is your 3rd, right? Well, hopefully later today I will have more information on our 3rd. It will be a cost option. It will cost money, $15 a year, to join Weather Call Next Gen. Weather Call Next Gen is a company that I have partnered with Again, I hope to have more information later today. We've already signed the agreement. We're already, getting through the logistics of it all. But essentially what it is something that you would pay $15 a year, and you would get, based on the location that you set, phone calls, texts, or emails, and you can customize which ones you receive for severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings. So essentially, if you want to be called and woken up in the middle of the night to let you know that a tornado warning is being issued for your area, you could pay the $15 a year and sign up for Weather Call Next Gen. So that will give you 3 different ways of receiving severe weather alerts, and could give you the opportunity to sleep in peace in a lot of this. And a lot of folks, and the other cool thing about Weather Call is you get the same call from the same number every time. So you could set that number up to pass as through your Do Not Disturb, so that if you set your phone on Do Not Disturb when you go to sleep at night, you really don't want to be bothered, but you don't want to miss a severe weather alert, it would still bypass that. So I'll have more information on that as we go through the daytime hours today. We are hopeful to have that up and running by Friday. That way, again, between the app, between Weather Call Next Gen, and between your NOAA Weather Radio, you have 3 different ways of receiving severe weather alerts. Because that's important. It's weird for me to sit here and say have 3 different ways of receiving severe weather alerts and then not give you 3 different options. It also makes all the other options obsolete. Forecast is always available at digitalweatherdesk.com and on the Digital Weather Desk app, available for Apple and Android users. I'll join you later today. Too Long Didn't Read at 9:30, midday stream, late afternoon stream, to Fish and Game at 8 o'clock. I'll have more severe weather information as we go through the day as well. All of that as we go through this Wednesday. Thanks so much for stopping by the Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank. Enjoy the rest of your, Wednesday? Yes, Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. Still just 7 days a week. Have a great day, everybody.